Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me once again, as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we're going to be talking about the newest Star Wars show, Skeleton Crew. The first two episodes dropped this week. Those two episodes are This Could Be a Real Adventure and Way, Way Out Past the Barrier. So before we hop in, Cam, like how much did you know about this show going into it before any of the before watching it, I guess?
Just the previews that have been run around the internet a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I caught the vibe from it, and I was like, oh, okay. So it's got like this Goonies vibe to it, and I was like, cool. I'm into that. Like let's have a as long as they nail it, like we may not have like Ewok adventures here, but we might have like something good on our hands. And that was my hope. I was hoping they would be able to capture kind of that Steven Spielberg-esque kind of like those motifs and those feelings and vibes.
Yeah, it is very Amblin Entertainment coded.
Yes.
Your Goonies, your E.T., that era of like child adventure kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I was just really hoping that would nail that. So I didn't know too much about it going in. I didn't even like know I knew that at one point Jude Law shows up, and I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know like what his shtick was, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like I've known, especially doing like parts of this show where it's like, here's the, upcoming shows. I've known about Skeleton Crew for a long time, and it was always like, oh, the thing Jude Law's attached to. We'll see what that turns into or what that, is.
Also very specifically, I most know about Skeleton Crew from your updates about what we're going to be doing next, going into like December and stuff.
Sure.
I heard that more than anything else.
Yeah.
So.
So like I'd seen, one or two of the trailers that came out, and pretty much it was like, okay, cool, whatever. It's a Star Wars thing. I will watch those as I always do. But yeah, it wasn't like really paying too much attention elsewise. So like seeing and like it was one where like, oh, I didn't do like let me like watch somebody do like a deep dive into like the trailer breakdown kind of thing.
Never did that. Yep.
So yeah, it was fun kind of jumping in more or less blind to this one. So far so good. In the first couple episodes, I think it is very much hitting that Goonies vibe. And I'll be curious to see like where we go with the bigger mystery. But so yeah, why did we pick it? Because it's the new Star Wars thing. We are kind of foregoing, as we've touched on in recent weeks, kind of foregoing our tradition of like, oh, it's December, so we're going to do all the holiday things. In part, as we touched on previously, because we're just running a little thin on what holiday things are out there, and because there were enough interesting things that are dropping here in December that was like, it'll make sense just to do them like when they're timely, as opposed to, all right, let's do a Home Sweet Home Alone or some shit in December, and then wait to do Skeleton Crew in January or something like that. So,
yeah. Also that sweet SEO.
Sure, yeah, because that super matters for us with our 10 listeners a week maybe. Although I did get I don't have Spotify for everybody doing the Spotify Wrapped. I did get the email basically saying like, hey, here's that nerdy site Spotify Wrapped, year in review kind of thing. And our Baldur's Gate 3 spoiler cast episode apparently did crazy numbers this last year. And
really?
I'm like, wait a minute, Baldur's Gate 3 was from a year ago. Plus, like it's like, wouldn't there have already been a Baldur's Gate 3? Like,
listen,
I think time wise, it was just like, oh, people just found it. But yeah, it was like, this episode did 700% higher than your normal episodes do, or something like that. I was like, cool. Anyway,
if our average viewership is like my brother-in-law, he's easy 6 months behind on everything.
Sure.
So
shout out to our viewers in Sweden, our listeners in Sweden.
Hey.
Apparently, that's a region that has numbers for us, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
Shout out to this is not the same thing. Back when I did Naughty Gamers, we did Dutch Hype.
Sure.
I guess, sweet hype. Let's go.
There you go. So history lesson here. These particular episodes originally released on December 2nd, 2024. But the season as a whole will be running through January 14th, 2025. I believe it's 8 episodes total. So we're going to get, basically we got the 2-episode premiere, and then we're getting an episode a week. And then do we end on a 2-part finale? No. Just 6 more weeks of episodes.
Cool.
These 2 episodes range from the first episode being 49 minutes to 32 minutes for the second episode, which is where I don't like streaming stuff, where it's like, okay, if you're swinging that wildly in terms of like runtime, no, either like cut things from the other episode or move them around or whatever. Like it feels like a cheat to be like, yeah, we're just going to do as much as we need. Because it's like, well, then you could have done more than 32 minutes in the second episode and given us more pirate hijinks in the pirate dock or whatever.
I don't know. I can't, like, part of me, I agree with you on that, but also part of me is like, yeah, like, if this is a chapter, that's a shorter chapter than the longer chapter, right? So, like, I feel that aspect from, like, the creative lens, but on the viewing aspect, 100%, like, give me a consistent viewing experience.
For me, it's when it's like, 50% of the length is you're swinging one way or the other. It's like, okay, no. Like, imagine if like, oh yeah, some episodes of The Simpsons are 22 minutes and some episodes are 11 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Like I said, consistency and viewing experience as an audience member, I much prefer it, but I also kind of get the idea of like, or maybe that first one's like, yeah, this would be like an hour of television, and then the next episode's a half hour of television. Except it's 32 minutes, not 28 or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like, okay, well, and if you're going to be swinging that wildly and do this as a 2-part premiere, like, why wasn't that all just one episode?
Sure.
Why didn't you just do an
hour and a half?
An hour and a half long or an hour 15, premiere, and then every other episode kind of settles into a more normal schedule or something like that. Yep. You have the freedom to do it on streaming, but it is like irksome when it's like especially because it was okay. The first episode I was like, oh, that felt like a beefy. Lengthy episodes setting up this world and introducing us to these new characters. And then the second episode ends and it's like, why the hell was that one so short?
Yep. So, I felt that for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, I expected more from this next episode.
Yeah.
Not like quality wise, but like content wise, I just expected more of it.
Yep. Anyway, in the Star Wars TV timeline of things, we had back in May through June of 2022, we had the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Then we had Andor Season 1, September through November of 2022. Then we had The Mandalorian Season 3 in March and April of last year. Ahsoka Season 1, August through October of 2023. The Acolyte earlier this year in June. Here we have Skeleton Crew in December through January. And then up next on the slate is Andor Season 2, slated, I believe, for April 2025.
Let's go.
Somewhere along the line, we have Ahsoka Season 2 coming. And I believe I saw a report this week saying, like, The Mandalorian and Grogu season or whatever that's going to be has, like, wrapped filming. So
I thought it was a movie they were doing.
Maybe it's the movie. I don't know. But whatever the Mandalorian and Grogu thing is also, coming down the pike at some point.
I'm good with it. Let's go.
Our roll call here, we have 2 directors over these 2 episodes. John Watts directs the first episode, and he'll also be back for the last episode of the season. He's probably best known from the Spider-Man Home series of Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home trilogy. And then David Lowery directed episode 2 and will also direct the next episode, episode 3. He most recently kind of broke out with his directorial work on The Green Knight. And and then he also wrote or did was the director of, I believe it was last year's Disney Plus Peter Pan and Wendy, which was the one that featured Jude Law as Captain Hook.
There you go. Okay.
Tying it all together. Other notable directors that we will get ahead in the season, we get the Daniels from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinhardt are directing episode 4.
Cool.
And then you're going to have Bryce Dallas Howard make her return into the Star Wars TV verse with episode 6. And then we got Jake Schreier and Lee Isaac Chung as well there, rounding out the crew.
Cool. Bryce Dallas Howard, I'm excited. She always brings a very unique episode to whichever series she's doing. Like, I think
I wonder if this will be secretly this is just another Mandalorian episode in this one, because she was the one that did that in Book of Boba Fett. She was the Mandalorian episode of that one.
Yep. Well, I mean, yeah, my thought was also like in Mandalorian season 1.
Yeah.
Her episode is the village episode where they it's a very different, much slower, more rural episode. Mm-hmm. That's also where we get the great like Grogu sipping soup while watching whatever the transphobe's character's name is, and the Mandalorian going at it.
Sure.
Great memes from that one. Big fan of that episode. I know some people didn't care for it, but I've liked all of her stuff she's done so far, and I think she does bring like a very unique kind of like slower paced lens to the story. So it's interesting. Indeed. Yeah, because we don't know how this is going to affect this show.
We will see, and we'll discuss that when we do the season wrap up next month, and kind of circle back to the full Skeleton Crew thoughts.
Watch her have like the most action packed, quick episode.
Sure, yeah. Our writers for most of the season are Christopher Ford and John Watts. They're also the co-creators of the series. They are credited as the writers for episodes 1 through 4, as well as episodes 7 and 8. They also wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man Homecoming. And then Myung-Jo Wesner will be the writer for episodes 5 and 6 when those come along. Our cast of characters here, we have, of course, Jude Law here, credited as Joe Nawood, or I believe that's right, or
Jonah Wood?
Jode Nawood. Jode, J-O-D, Nawood. Some bullshit Jedi name. But I'm pretty sure that is also his voice behind the mask of Captain Silvo at the beginning.
Yeah, I have a very strong theory that I'm going to
definitely feels like that was like, why else would he be the one, in the jail cell after this crew has just mutinied?
Yep. Also, I have a lot of thoughts about why this is. It's good. I have a lot to talk about it. So.
We will chat. Jude Law, known from things like The Talented Mr. Ripley, Alfie, A Series of Unfortunate Events, the 2004 version where he played or did the voice of Lemony Snicket. Also The Holiday. He was Watson in the Sherlock Holmes movies. He was young Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts series.
Love his casting, love his work in that movie, but it was not a good film.
Oh, God, no. Captain Marvel, he was the bad guy in that one. And as I said earlier, he was Captain Hook in the Peter Pan and Wendy series. So yeah, I saw articles are making the rounds of like, Jude Law, what does it feel like to be, in the Marvel universe, in the Harry Potter universe, and in the Star Wars universe now? And it's like, yeah, he's living a good life.
Yep. He's a great actor. Holiday, criminally underrated film.
Sure.
It is by far one of the best Christmas films out there.
I always think of it's a clip that occasionally makes the rounds of like Jack Black doing like a red carpet or something, and then and somebody asking him like, so what's your go-to like holiday movie? Is it the one you were in? He's like, I was in a holiday movie. Oh, The Holiday.
Yeah,
like he just had completely blacked it out.
It's so early in his career.
Sure.
And it is such a like niche film, but I love it to death. Because it's the dumbest premise of the world. Two women go on a home swap website and like swap homes for the holidays.
Yep.
And it's like,
and isn't Jack Black's character in that like his whole thing is like he writes jingles?
No, so he writes themes and stuff. He composes music. So he shows up to Cameron Diaz's character's house because he's dropping off his latest score for one of her movie trailers.
Gotcha.
Because that's what her character does. She cuts and edits and makes movie trailers. So he has a thing for her from the studio that he wrote specifically for the trailer, introduced to
Kate Winslet.
Thank you. Kate Winslet's character. And then they go on a thing. But interesting enough, his character has a girlfriend at the time. So their introduction, they're going at it, is very platonic initially.
We don't need to go down the holiday rabbit hole.
I can for hours. I can talk about the holiday longer than the movie exists. Like I can talk 2 hours about the holiday. That movie's like a tight hour and a half.
That's not the brag you think it is.
It's not meant to be a brag.
You can do that about everything, Cameron.
Here's the thing. I know it's not a brag. It was not meant to be a brag. I'm just saying I have a lot to say about it.
You know what people wouldn't like say the holiday features lore, but you're going to be like, no, the lore of the holiday is really deep.
It's not really deep, but it's there.
Anyway, Ravi Cabot-Conyers plays young Wim here. He was previously the voice of Antonio in Encanto, as well as
I didn't know
Grassland.
that.
Robert Timothy Smith plays Neil. He was in an episode or two of Mythic Quest, as well as a film called Dear Santa. Ryan Kira Armstrong plays Fern. She was one of the young characters, I believe, young Antonia in Black Widow, i.e., Taskmaster, who like pre Taskmaster explosion or whatever.
Okay.
She was also in The Tomorrow War, which was a film with
Chris Pratt
and Yvonne Strahovski, and she basically played the young Yvonne Strahovski character. American Horror Story and Firestarter. Kiriana Crater plays KB, having been in a show called Bunked, which is not what I initially thought of, like a young kid's version of Punked. No, it's some Disney show that's been running for multiple seasons.
Okay, solid.
And then United States of Al. Nick Frost plays the voice of SM-33, of course, from the...
I did not realize that. That's so cool.
From, of course, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, Doctor Who, Spaced. So yeah, this kind of brings, since obviously we already got Simon Pegg's casting in Force Awakens, this kind of brings the Spaced crew full circle in here. Then we have Wim's father, right? Yeah, Wim's father, Wendell, is Tunde Adebimpe, who, like, one of his earliest credits jumped out at me. He was in the old Celebrity Deathmatch show.
What?
You want to guess who he was in Celebrity Deathmatch?
No idea.
Michael Jordan.
Okay.
He was the voice of Michael Jordan in a couple episodes of Celebrity Deathmatch back in the 90s. He's also in Rachel Getting Married. He was a bit part in Spider-Man Homecoming, and more recently in this year's Twisters. Carrie Condon, playing Fern's mother, Farah, was the voice of Friday in the MCU films, going back to Avengers Age of Ultron. She's also in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Ray Donovan, Better Call Saul, and she was Academy Award nominated for The Banshees of Inisherin. And then, I don't know if you caught him, but I certainly did. Jaleel White there as Gunter, one of the pirates crew, the pirate that kind of has like the low bot energy. Of course, most iconic as Steve Urkel from Family Matters, but also the Sonic the Hedgehog animated series.
Yep.
So yeah, fun seeing him pop up and just being like, "Holy shit, that's Jaleel White."
Good for him. Yeah. Glad he's doing it, and like seems to have a very right hand antagonist sort of feel.
Oh yeah. He seems to be. He's going to be kind of the like. So Brutus is like the big, the
pirate lord,
the person who took over the pirate gang, and he seems to be like one of the right hand men of Brutus. And
Brutus, from indications, is like in charge of that pirate port as well.
I don't know if the whole port, but certainly like they have the biggest ship. As you kind of see them coming in, you see their ship from the beginning of the episode or the beginning of the series. Is like dwarfing all of the other ones. Mm-hmm. Another one of the pirates there that I'll call out. I don't know the actress's name, but she was one of the old lady inmates in Orange Is the New Black.
Yes.
So seeing her pop up and be like, hey, it's her too.
Yeah.
Like neat.
Got a whole wild crew. Also, shout out to Brutus, like doing a betrayal at the beginning of the first episode. It's like Et tu, Brute.
Indeed. Yeah. Some trivia here. As we often do, I have a placeholder here for I've got a bad feeling about this. I don't think we've had an I've got a bad feeling about this yet in these 2 episodes, but I'm sure it will be somewhere along the line. As noted in the opening text, this series begins after the fall of the Empire during the New Republic, so between episodes 6 and 7 of the films, just like the other live-action series like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Book of Boba Fett. The pre-show montage of Star Wars heads in this run includes a Rex droid from Star Tours, as well as a pod racing Anakin, which is rare. We don't usually get like a humanoid face. They're usually bots or android droids. But we also get a truancy droid from later in the episode, as well as SME or SM-33. And
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize
you didn't
that.
catch. Oh my god, that was the first thing I caught. I was like SM33.
Oh, Smee.
Hilarious.
Also, that makes sense now why the hat. I was like, that looks like a Captain Hook hat the kid puts on at one point.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a Captain Hook hat. It is a ripped right out of the Goonies hat when like Chunk is putting on hats in the pirate ship, One-Eyed Willie ship. And also among there is the helmet that Captain Silvo, the potentially Jude Law pirate at the beginning, is wearing. So,
I didn't know that.
A whole series of new like heads in the kind of little opening sequence there.
Oh, sorry, I meant something different.
Sorry, no, he is not. It is not a helmet in
the
ship
ship
later.
It's just earlier, yeah.
Yep. I don't know if you knew this one, but the hologram circus that the kids are watching, that Neil's like brothers are watching or siblings are watching, is the direct hologram circus from the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I was aware of that. Yeah,
they reshot it, they refilmed it, but it is like
frame for frame,
beat for beat, like character for character, image for image from the original. They just like the quality of the original wasn't good enough to up-res into modern tech.
Nothing about that holiday special is good enough to be like want it more.
But they brought it in as a little Easter egg. So yeah, I loved seeing like the fan things of like, all right, so this is a thing that Chewbacca's kid is watching in, out there in the holiday special, which is not canon, but they've made this thing canon, and it's apparently, a popular enough thing that kids are just watching it on a random Tuesday or whatever it is. Just watching it on a random day of the week in the afternoon. So it's like, oh, that's apparently this universe's Bluey.
Yep.
There you go.
I will say, and I just need to put that out there. I freaking love this alien race. They are adorable.
Sure.
I stand them. I will die for them. The babies, so cute.
So I have
so unbelievably cute.
Jumping ahead to trivia later. Although sharing similar features to the ortolan species, which counts Max Rebo among its most famous examples, Neil and his family belong to an all-new species, according to the team behind the show. So, he's a brand new elephantine species that is currently credited on Wikipedia as Neil's species until we know more details about them.
Yep. I get the similarities with the trunk, like blue-skinned trunked creature, but Max Rebo has like pure black eyes. Neil's family all had like more humanoid like eyes, and then on top of that, Max Rebo's race doesn't have hair. Neil's race has hair.
You know that Max Rebo could have just been rocking the bald look.
Oh, you're so right.
When you only know one creature of a species, you can't really say like, oh, that creature reflects the entire species.
That other species hasn't had any other alternative representation.
I understand, yeah. Which is why a lot of people thought, oh, that's a little Max Rebo kid when they saw this. Anyway, other trivia here. SM33 name drops Attilan, which was the home of the chopper base in Rebels. As well as Aldani, which was the planet of the payroll heist.
Yeah, heist.
From Andor. Yep. The third one he name drops Alcorn or something like that. A heretofore unmentioned or unknown planet. So that seems to be new. Somebody out there was like, maybe it's a nod to the name of the creator of Pong or something like that. I don't know. The ferryman at Port Borgo is a teak, a species first seen in the Ewok made-for-TV movies. You mentioned, Ewok Adventures earlier. The pirate who tries to take the money from Wim and Neil but gets his butt kicked by SM33 is Vane, who we last saw in The Mandalorian Season 3 as basically the right-hand man pirate to the pirate King Gorian Shard. And he's also in this Lego set that I've got.
Nice.
There's Vane. Right there.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I got that guy, and he's in a new show. Great. They also have Lego sets for the Onyx Cinder, which is the name of the new ship. Obviously, the kids don't know that yet in canon or anything like that.
Oh, their ship is called the Onyx Cinder?
Their ship is called the Onyx Cinder, yeah.
That's so fucking cool.
Yep.
I love that ship. The ship is, when it started going off, I was like, okay, cool. But then I'm like, it's got the right space, clearly fast, like has some good momentum to it, good shape to it, like has some good whole. I'm like, this is, and also a lot of like bells and whistles that Shmi was using and talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a good ship.
It is certainly seemingly a utility ship. It's not going to be like the fastest little fighter. It's not like a Naboo starfighter
for sure
thing, but yeah, it has some good heft.
I'm really curious about what kind of like weapon, like what kind of weapons this thing has on it, because it's a pirate vessel. It definitely is going to have weapons.
Sure, indeed.
So, I'd super dig it.
So that's what I've got here for the trivia. I'm sure there's a ton of other Easter eggs and stuff like that, but I wasn't going to go super in the weeds. Like, so many of the Easter egg, like I watched, a Screen Crush or something like that of like, here's 100 Easter eggs in, episode 1 and 60 in episode 2 or whatever. And like, half of them are wrong because they keep getting this guy's name wrong. They kept calling him Thane instead of Zane. I was like, Thane is the guy from Mass Effect 2 and 3. This is Zane, not even Zane. I'm saying it right. It's Vane. I see it right here, Vane. But yeah, like there's a whole bunch of like, oh, okay, you've just pulled together whatever you found on Reddit and aren't really fact checking or doing a whole bunch of stuff. They did do like a deep dive into like what the Orabesh says in like the books and stuff that Wim is reading, and I'm sure there were references to the like all the kids being tasked for whatever their role is going to be going towards the Great Work, which is a seemingly reference to the great works that are referenced in the High Republic era.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe this at Adon or at Adin, which also just feels like I hear at Adin and I'm like, okay, so is this like a secret like Imperial holdout place that has just named their place after the AT-ATs? Because yeah, that's what I'm gonna hear. That's what I'm gonna think of when I hear at Adin. But yeah, the idea that like, oh, maybe they're still working on things from the High Republic and have been completely like cut off from the greater events of basically episodes 1 through 6, because obviously the credits they're working on are like mint condition Old Republic credits.
There's a lot of things interesting about it.
Yeah, they're the the lost lost civilization or whatever, like lost eternal treasure.
The planet of like a lost eternal treasure.
Yeah, the lost planet of eternal treasure.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. And there is this element of like, okay, well, I don't think they're going to go here, although with some of the like mundane things they're kind of playing around with in this one, it's like maybe they would. The idea that like the galaxy is so wide spanning, like, yeah, you're time traveling every time you like jump into hyperspace to a different planet. Like there's no universal clock in space. So yeah, maybe they've jumped so far that they've they're out of sync with the rest of the universe or something like that.
Well, anyway. the entire like quote unquote year is all based around like, and this is the fun.
It's the Coruscant calendar basically.
Well, it's Coruscant, but Coruscant bases it off of like the rotation of the entire galaxy, like makes a singular rotation around the center of it. That's the cycle.
Sure.
And so like the cycle could be different on like where you're at in the galaxy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting.
Anyway, yeah, what'd you think of these episodes, Cam?
I fucking loved them. This is such a good series. I am having such a fun time with it. I like that we have a nerdy kid who wants to be a Jedi, and that is just seen as just like a wow, nerd alert. You thought it was a Jedi temple, nerd alert. Oh my gosh, I want to be able to protect people. It's like, I love that. I love that it's like a fantasy nerd basically. Oh, dude, yeah. When they do the lightsaber fight, and then like the other kids go like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, it's so good." You have these two badass girls who are all about like speeder bikes, and like I love it. Fern, KB, they are so cool.
They're wizard.
They're so wizard. Shout out to using wizard.
Another thing of like them being like a out of time. They're using slang from episode 1. Although I think we've had in more recent shows and stuff other references to something being wizard, but obviously notable from Phantom Menace is when we first were introduced to the word wizard.
Yep. It was so cool to see like these kids like really. Also, shout out. We've never seen a suburb in Star Wars before.
Yeah, that was like, oh, okay. They're really going with like how, yeah, like this is, yeah, just the suburbs, and it is like again, so much of this is so like 80s action adventure coded.
Yes.
So it's just the neighborhood that the kids are biking through in E.T.
Yep.
But with a little bit of a sci-fi flair to it.
The off-beaten path restricted area
the hover
is
bikes,
the hover bikes. When he lifts up the hover bikes and like drops it on the other end, it's like that's so Goonies, like that era, like 80s kids adventure coded, like it's so good. It
completely biffs the Akira slide.
Yep, totally biffs it. It's like I love that. It was just does the cool slide and then just like topples over. And shout out also to when Wim and Neil are. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go down in 3, 2, 1, boom, and just like both of them start falling through. And he's like, you were supposed to. He's like, your bones are too heavy. I'm like, I'm loving this. I will die for Neil. Wim, he pushes it sometimes, but Neil, I adore this little elephant boy so much. He's so funny. Mm-hmm. Also, yeah, like
Kramer trunk. That's not where I speak.
There's just like. Also, shout out to when Wim goes up to the window, he goes, too low. Where's Neil? Just points up, and he goes, okay. And then he climbs up on top, and he like goes like, oh, hits it the window. And Neil's taking a bubble bath after school.
Yep. Just yeah, that is the like. This isn't just the suburbs. This is like the upper crust suburbs kind of thing. This is the North Scottsdale suburbs.
And then the thing about it is that Fern lives in the like. Fountain Hills suburb.
Yeah.
Like her house.
Yeah, Fern is Paradise Valley.
Yeah, Paradise Valley. Yeah, 100% like that larger
her
houses.
Mom is like the undersecretary or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like also easily like mom being like hover helicopter parent of like, well, I went to your school to get this for you. And like, you're now top of your class again. Congrats. Like, I went and grabbed it for you. Like, don't forget. Like, oh. And you can tell this kid just wants to race speeder bikes and just like be a badass.
Oh yeah, she's a young little rebel.
Yeah, like to the point also she had a blaster on her at one point, and I was like, I clocked it when she got out of the ship. She had a blaster on her. I was like, is that an actual blaster? And then sure enough, KB is like, first off, we don't normally get to see cyborg representation in Star Wars, despite the fact like it is a well-known quantified thing that exists. Like. The most common one is Lando's advisor in Cloud City. Lobot. So her having like this very like nice sleek one is like perfect. And I'm just like, I'm loving that it has the Geordi visor to it as well. It's so cool. It's so neat. Like it's wizard as hell.
It's like she is the Data character of this. Yeah. Absolutely.
But she's also kind-hearted and sincere.
Which I would say Data is.
Oh no! That's the thing I'm saying is like, oh, you're saying gotcha. I thought you were saying like the analytical type character.
Yeah. No. She is
Data from Star Trek,
i.e.
Star Trek Next Generation. Gotcha.
No, Data from Goonies.
Same thing. Okay. Hey, you want to know something? Works both ways.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, definitely though. Like her apology after, security, name your crush. And when being like, what? And he'll just be like, I forgot the girl's name, but like, Garlax!
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny. Mm-hmm. Like, it's great. I love that there's this age gap between the two groups of the boys and the girls because these girls are like 12, 13. Like, they are older. The boys are like 9 and 10. It's that perfect kind of like age gap where the girls have clearly like taken that next leap forward in like maturity. And these boys are just kind of like still hanging on to boyhood a little bit. And it's like, it's this perfect like mix. I love the chemistry with the four of them. I love how Neil's immediately like older kids follow them. And also shout out to Wim just like fucking up by touching shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't touch anything.
But that's a blinking green light.
Boop.
I didn't touch anything. I didn't do it. It's like, oh my God. That's where I'm like, I'm going to hate this kid. I
thought so too. I was like, oh, I really hope I don't hit him. And like next episode, I liked him a lot better. It was fine. He's clearly like super hopped up on adventure. and now he's met a Jedi, and like all of his dreams are coming true. Like this boy's living the fantasy life, and it's awesome.
But there is also that fun meta thing of like the idea of like these kids wanting the adventure, or this kid in particular wanting adventure, not realizing that he's apparently on living adventure on some mythical, lost planet. But as we see from that mythical lost planet, shit real 1984.
Yeah, there's some serious fascist.
There's some real undercurrent of stuff going
The Great
on.
Work.
Yeah.
And like the moment that they bring up the mint condition High Republic or Old Republic credits, I was like, oh, because before I saw a Imperial symbol, and then I realized no, it's a Old Republic like government symbol, which is what the Imperial symbol is like based off of anyway.
Yeah.
As we see there, like the clone troopers are stamped, their armors are stamped with the Old Republic symbol as well. And so getting to see that, I'm like, oh shit. And then they're like, it's mint condition. And I'm like, it's not quote unquote mint condition. It looks like it's mint condition, but this planet has been recirculating the currency, the credits. Dad pulling him out of his pocket. Here's your lunch money for the week.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard credits. That I was like, interesting. Hard credits, but okay. Like the suburbs, okay, maybe it's different than like kind of like the kind of like auto credit stuff that they use otherwise, or like the thin credit chips that you see in other Star Wars stuff. Because it's hard metal credits, and that's a lot. It's a kid basically walking around with tiny gold bars in his sock.
Yeah.
And the moment that is happening, and he hands it to the little munchkin guy who is the ferryman, and the ferryman like loses his shit. And then wants to get paid double to get them back. Awesome. Loving the hell out of this show. I think the kids are great. SM33 is awesome, especially when he comes out and he starts just duking the shit out of people. He's got like blast shields on each hand to like guard, and then he uses it to like burn a motherfucker.
He does the full Cavill, like arm cocking.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so fucking good. Like this show is really, really great.
I love that he's got the little rat that keeps like coming in and out of his eye.
The best. I love it. It's the most off-putting thing about him initially, and then it suddenly becomes like endearing that he's like this little creature's home.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to little creature. Like really, it's like I'm like, wait, are they really gonna fucking have this?
Is he gonna know how to get this key? No, he's just gonna.
He's just gonna fuck around and then like
he's gonna pee on the thing and leave.
Yeah. Fucking great. Also, shout out to the Jedi. Those fucking Jedi shit to say, which is like. The distance between us and the key is an illusion.
Yeah.
And then brings it over with the Force. And it's like, at first I was like, oh, this, because my initial thought is like, oh, that's Jude Law's voice at the beginning. So now we're getting Jude Law again. And he's probably going to be like, I'm faking being a Jedi because this kid's in love with Jedis. And then he uses the Force right away. And I was like, oh shit. And it's like, if you had Force powers and you had to go through the Jedi Purge, great way to hide yourself. Mask yourself up and be a pirate.
Yeah, I mean the one of the theories is that like he had already cut himself on the off from the Force, a la like Ahsoka, so that's why he's not caught up in Order 66 and went into being a pirate.
Also, they could easily be like they could also tie this into the old Obi-Wan Kenobi novels, post Episode 1, of what happens when kids flunk out of the Jedi Academy. Like you are supposed to like. I talked about it on that D Plus show before about like the Jedi and how like the quote unquote the Jedi Corps, which is basically like farmers and other people who all like basically didn't make it as Jedi, and so they're sent out as like a jobs program. He could easily be somebody who didn't make it as a Jedi Padawan, which is not to say like they don't have talent in the Force. It's often about like the right master meeting the right Padawan and the chemistry between them more than the quality and talent of the Jedi Padawan.
Speaking of kids finding their proficiency or whatever, like
the assessment,
the assessment test being given to like 8 or 9 year olds or whatever.
Like I said, big fascist feels on this episode of This Planet, and then for them to be like past a barrier, I was like, why do you guys have a barrier?
Yeah,
on your entire planet.
It was the. I didn't catch that, or I wasn't like giving that too much weight until they're like, what are those? You mean stars?
Yeah.
How do you not know what stars are?
Are they planets? No, they're stars.
Yeah. It was
whoa, I've never seen so many before. And and my first thought was like, oh, they must be very Pluto. It's like, nope. There's something else going on here. There's something else going on here.
Yeah,
man.
it's like, especially because we see, they're in the suburbs, so it's not light pollution that is, preventing things. And then on like a rewatch or follow up, it was okay. They do kind of pan up, and we see the barrier is this like green, foggy kind of haze,
and they're like, we're gonna run into it, and they go through it, and it's like. Immediately, my thought is like it's like mesh illusion, like mesh camouflage over the planet. Which, if it's planet wide, that's fucking insane. Mm-hmm. But if it's High Republic, where we're getting into some like gray territory, the High Republic is called the High Republic because of the level of technology they went into. It isn't until the fall of the High Republic into the Old Republic that we get that we kind of get like this like. We're actually seeing it right now with our modern technology of why is our new technology, instead of being smaller and faster, just the same size and worse. Like our services are more expensive and worse. Our experiences are more expensive and worse. Our food is more expensive and worse.
You're saying the old Republic is just late stage capitalism.
I mean, that was obvious. That's always been the case. But like this is just very much on the nose of like and of course, this also speaks to a really greater meta narrative about like these kids grew up in a very like cloistered off. Like imagine you lived in the prosperity of the 90s or the 80s, like the prosperity of like the Reaganomics, early returns, booming the economy rather than, and then like we feel the fall off later on in our generation, not that enjoying the boom of the 80s. Like what if you had that perpetuating forever? And like, is that what this planet is? And now they're exposed to like the greater like frustrations of the galaxy, which is also what happens when you have a fall of late stage capitalism go into a fascist regime. That fascist regime falls, and then you have like and I like that they're doing this. I like that they're like, hey, by the way, the New Republic is kind of more dystopian, of like a return to the old way that didn't work.
Yeah, it is another like, oh, this is another kind of building block between episode 6 and episode 7 of like, how did the New Order or the First Order like rise and become so prominent after the fall of the Empire kind of thing? It's like, oh, because the New Republic was fucking things up. You
left it right.
They weren't doing great.
Also, we see immediately the First Order has their hooks in the New Republic. Like they have people in key positions and what is their job? Not to be like nefarious villains, just muck things up in bureaucracy. Because if you do that, we see it. We're seeing it in our real life, and it's like, ugh. Yeah. Like, does nobody have media literacy?
A lot of times, no.
Yeah, I know.
There's a whole other thing. As I was watching this, I couldn't help like having this meta thought of like the shitty Star Wars quote unquote fans, but no, they're Star Wars tourists or whatever. The people that like come out here and get like rage bait shit about Star Wars with fans. Everything. Yeah.
The people are like, act like this girl.
Like, they're going to come out and be so mad at this about and completely oblivious to the thing that like, well, Star Wars was always for kids. Like Star Wars has always been a thing for kids. So yeah, I'm sorry that you as a 40-year-old man or something like that aren't enjoying this story in the same way that you enjoyed episode 4 when you watched it when you were this age.
Yeah.
Like, no, shut the hell up. Like that's and I do appreciate that like even like my era has come around on the prequels of that, at least in the sense of like, hey, yeah, it's really shitty what people did to Jake Lloyd. Like, fuck that. And like, hopefully Star Wars and Disney and everybody does a much better job of protecting the guy who was Jar Jar these kids. And everything, yeah, Ahmed Best. Like, I that's the thing I kept being like, oh no, I hope people see this with the like joy and fun that is intended of this, which I'm enjoying it from the first couple episodes, and like the mystery of it and the the grandiose thing. And aren't just immediately shitting on this or whatever, because it's like, I don't want to see Star Wars that's for kids. What?
I had to bring it to you. Star Wars is always for kids.
Yeah,
it's for everybody.
I said I meant for the number 4. Star Wars is for kids running around as pirates or whatever. But
there you go. That too.
Yeah. Anyway, other thoughts? Anything else? Do you want to go into weird conspiracy things of like what do you
Yes.
think's happening?
Sure.
Knock yourself out.
This is where I'm like, I already kind of mentioned it a little bit already about like, clearly they're hiding. They're part of the High Republic era. They have these old Republic credits. So, like, there's something going on that like they
like the ship had clearly been there long enough to be buried.
Yeah. And not just that, roots had grown through the ventilation, like, and plant life was there. Like, it was nested. Like, this was a real, like, it had been buried a long time ago.
Yeah. And the pirate, the SM-33 droid that was on that planet did not know that planet was at Adam. So, yeah, it's like, like, I'm very... Like when that stuff gets teased out in episode 2, I'm like, oh, I'm here for whatever that mystery is going to be.
Yes,
like that's what's going to carry me through this. Of like, ooh, that's an interesting nugget to like follow up on.
So interesting enough, this brings up two things for me. One, episode 2, they bring up that it is entirely possible with high enough authority and power to remove a planet from planetary star maps across the galaxy. We saw that because
you're saying episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Sorry. Yep. In Attack of the Clones, we find out Kamino, despite being a otherwise pretty like known planet for its time, all of a sudden was removed from data records, and people forgot about it. Like, and granted, it's a big galaxy, so like that's bound. Like or a town in the middle of Ohio.
People forgot about it. The Jedi forgot.
The
people that we were following in that
didn't know about it.
Didn't know about it. Couldn't find it in their particular records.
And especially because if it's like, oh hey, like so that happened. Also, too, if you people who also complain about that plot point, I bring up in the expanded universe that people love, specifically during the Thrawn era, you have the Lost City of the Jedi, which is a legendary lost city that is tied into a greater mystery that this gives me super deep vibes of like this hidden city that is like has ancient stuff there, or in this case, it's not ancient so much as it's just been moving along. Also, their technology seems to be all like that era of the Republic. Especially Shmi as a droid is clearly like old Republic era droid, with his design. He does not have the things you see for typical droids, whether it's because basically he doesn't have anything that would indicate that he's had upgrades that the Clone Wars would have like given a droid, a combat droid of some kind. There's no more sophisticated weaponry. There's no blaster attachments. There's none of that. It's all piston-based fisticuffs. And that speaks to a, like, before Clone Wars, before the droideka army revolution, they revolutionized droids going forward. Like, before that, you had some droids, protocol droids, R2 type droids, like a lot of, like, very basic droids. This one is very clearly a basic, like, protection droid. But it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have blasters. It doesn't have, like, anything more advanced that you saw with the droidekas, where it's about, like, the droidekas, cheap, efficient, mass army that can also be folded up and compacted. Like, that sort of stuff you saw from the Trade Federation about, like, kind of the revolution that they did with droids is something that's not really talked about or well known. Or, like, I guess it's well known enough because you see it through the media, but it's not really well talked about that they really did push droid technology.
A light is not shown upon it.
Yes, there you go.
It's just kind of, it's there. We see it. It's in the background.
You process it because, oh, they have the new super battle droids in episode 2. Like, you're seeing it and you're processing it, but people aren't really analyzing it and taking it back and being like, well, what were droids like before that? And when you play games or read literature about the High Republic and Old Republic, for example, in Jedi Survivor, you have that droid from the High Republic era. Mm-hmm. And if you look, it's a very, for its time, advanced droid. Has a lot of advanced protocols to it. Its construction is not modern for Star Wars. Yeah. And the fact this droid is really beat up, but his construction design is not typical for Star Wars. So I'm loving that. There's some deep context clues about what's going on this planet, why it's hidden out. Like, it also brings to mind, I remember in the Old Republic, there was the Starforge, which was a force-driven, basically like factory that would produce ships en masse with raw materials. And I'm wondering if Ad-Atten has just been producing massive amounts of materials. And also, if we ever question, hey, where'd the First Order get all the ships and stuff that they have in the sequels. This might be a clue. Also, when she mentioned the great work and taking part in it, it reminded me of the prison episode of Andor, where they mentioned you're part of a bigger project. Like, this is part of a bigger project. Like, you're doing this. It reminded me a little bit of that too. Granted, that might have just been like the fascist overtones of everything, but dug it. Super dug it. Yeah, that's it. Also, I do like, this is also a crazy thing. This is so crazy that like I'm loving that the era, the New Republic era is doing this, because I mean, I've talked about it before. My old Star Wars RPG character, the Captain, turned into a pirate lord and all of this stuff. And so like them hitting piracy is like doing it for me on like an intrinsic level. Like, I'm digging this. I love that there are pirate lords and pirate kings who are commanding sectors of space and controlling hyperlanes. And the New Republic doesn't have enough anything to do anything about it.
Yeah. I love the opening, obviously huge beginning of episode 4 vibes to it, but much more brutal and ruthless, with like the piston ports shooting into the sides of the ship, and to their credit, the ship being able to just blast one of those piston ports wide open until manned commandos kind of jump over and like attach detonators to the turrets. But yeah, just such a great display of like, yeah, here's Star Wars piracy. Here's what this looks like. Seeing that it is like seeing all of the aliens come through, and it basically being the like who's who of the Mos Eisley Cantina, greatest hive of scum and villainy kind of thing, including Brutus being very much the like Wolfman kind of species that was in the original movies, and then I think edited out in the special editions kind of thing. That was a fun like, and like part of me is like, I wonder if it's supposed to be the same guy.
It'd be cool if it was, but I love that he's this like marksman, like expert. If like he's originally the strong right hand, now he's in charge, and like I'm digging it.
He's very much like to go back to like Muppet Treasure Island. He's the Long John Silver type of this, of like, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows the stuff, and he can take over at drop of a hat kind of thing. Or Barbossa, I guess, would be maybe. Yeah,
he's the Barbossa of it. I love that he picks up the single Republic credit, which also gives us a look of what a New Republic credit looks like versus the Old Republic credit.
Yeah, very
cool. Like, I just now put those two together. I'm like, didn't realize it before. That's very cool. Yep. And he says, but like all those precious lives lie.
What is going on there? Like, yeah. Because Captain Silvo has a point. Like, why would your hull be magnetically sealed? Like,
at one point it was
only one credit. Like, what's going on there? Why is that?
My pickup on it is they, whatever place they were at before, where they
had just
dropped it off.
Unloaded.
Yeah, they just unloaded. So basically, Silva was late getting to that job, but it was enough. He goes, "Oh, so mutiny then." Goes into fisticuffs and fighting, and I'm like, I'm loving that.
Shout out to, I don't know the species. I think they're Garms, but I don't remember.
Oh, the three-eyed ones?
The three-eyed with like eye stalks, and one of them
got blown out at the beginning when they invaded.
So there's two different aliens there. One is a guy that has like two eyes up here, and one of them gets shot out, and like we see him later in the starport getting like
an eye patch,
an eye patch or something on it. But one of the, I think, Garms that are like the three eye stalk things is missing an eye stalk and has a patch over where that would be.
That I confused the two of them.
Yeah, he's got two eye patches, and like that's like the Silvo just goes and like punches right at him first. But also we see that the eye patch Garm coming in, and like kind of like he's walking this way, but he shoots somebody over this way because his eye
I could see it. That
peripheral
it's
vision kind of
awesome. When the one gets his eye blown out, he just
shakes it off and
shakes it off and shoots him. And I'm like, this is how you set up. Like, are a lot of these guys dying? Yes, but this is clearly like the weak die, the strong survive. This is what pirates used to like. This is what pirates are actually like.
Yeah,
they boarded ships dangerously and led the vanguard and took down crews. And I love that
survives gets the bounty.
Yep, and it's so cool the way they execute on this entire introductory scene. Really shows you, by the way, these are violent people. And then when we see the kids go there in episode 2, we immediately know, they're in deep danger.
Yeah.
And that's before we even know that they're from a legendary treasure planet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Also, shout out to the hooker with a heart of gold for trying to save those kids.
sure. Dancer. The Arabesh there is dance club.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yep. Yeah. Lots of, but also that is even that is like whatever species she is. Her species in Rebels, I believe, is like a species known for slaving. So the kids are kind of right to think she's trying to kidnap them.
Because they're known to slave.
Because that is a trait of that species or something like that. So yeah, I believe she also is of the same species as the like big rotund dancer in Jabba's palace.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
I hope she comes back. I like that character, though.
Yeah, be interesting.
Shout out to Urkel being a cyborg as well.
Yep.
Love that little tip. It's like hell's yeah. Like prop design and costume design for his character.
Yeah,
being a cyborg.
It's very much.
Yeah.
I'll be curious, like what that if we get a sense of like what that does for him. Like, does it mean that he's like a better sharpshooter or something like that? Like, what does that mean practically for this character and his role in the pirate crew?
Yeah, it could be something. He could easily just also be like the tech guy, so he plugs it into something.
Yeah.
Similarly, we saw KB do.
He could be the KB counterpart. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Lots of fun. I mean, yeah, just again, Goonies vibes through and through. Very much the like dark and dreariness of going through the abandoned ship before they get it take off, but then also the like cool spectacle of the ship powering up and the very ET vibes of you know, it rising up.
Lost Encounters vibe.
Of the Third Kind.
Yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
The dad like seeing enough to see that his kid is on that ship along with the other kids, and then like goes and finds the truancy bots that are like shining their lights a la the flashlights in ET. Yeah, just so many like throwback vibes to that feel of a movie, that kind of a movie. And then yeah, the kids like they trigger the ship's autopilot and it shoots them into hyperspace and they're off and off on an adventure.
Well, it was already set to autopilot, which is interesting, which makes sense because we saw people were dueling, people were fighting to the death. And so the ship was on autopilot and they were roaming through the ship fighting each other. And I think that's fucking rad. Like it tells an environmental storytelling of the ship, what it's been through. We saw, and also, this is also another point too. The sword is clearly a sword and obviously not a lightsaber or anything, but like melee, like long swords, very uncommon at this, like in the era even of the Old Republic. We saw blasters grossly outperform them.
Yeah, I didn't look too closely. Is it possibly it's like a vibroblade?
I believe it's a vibroblade.
Kind of.
I believe it's a
like
vibroblade.
Okay.
Yeah, just not operating.
Yeah.
Ever since The Mandalorian brought us on screen vibroblades, like I wouldn't yes, every blade is a vibroblade, even if we don't get the bzzz out of it.
Yeah.
I don't need to see that to know if you are using melee. I will automatically assume it's a vibroblade, unless it's an electroblade, which is a different kind of blade.
Sure.
Useful against droids. Anything
else you want to call out or give any mentions to?
Those kids sure aren't going to make it back for that race on Saturday. For Fern and KB.
Oh yeah, no, they're like, there's a whole like.
Oh, I love it. He was like, "It's a Jedi temple," and she's like, "It's parts for my it's spare parts. We're gonna strip it for parts."
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean like that. I guess that's another reason I don't like Wim is because he did all of this without any empathy for like Neil.
100%. Yeah, and he's a shitty friend.
Just a completely selfish kid who was supposed to be studying and followed his fancy for whims of adventure and stuff like that. And putting everybody else at risk. Shout out to Fern for basically
stepping up,
talking her way into being the captain of the ship.
Yep.
With Smee.
She has big captain energy. You love to see it.
Even the whole Smee thing. It's like, okay, that is a very weird thing to have as a crossover reference in this universe. to their credit, they're not calling him Smee, they're calling him 33.
Yeah, SM33.
But it is like, okay, clearly Smee to our audience. So it's like, wait, is Peter Pan and Captain Hook, are they supposed to also exist in this kind of universe?
I don't see that. I just see it as an Easter egg, like a little little head nod to,
Yeah.
Especially since Jude Law was Hook already. Like,
yeah, that's a whole other
I think it's just
layer to this weird little like Easter egg tree.
I'm digging it, man. I'm really digging it. I'm really excited to see like how this ends up playing out over the next 6 episodes. I just think we're in for a good time. This seems to have the right tone of adventure that this show needs to make it work, and that's what I was hoping they would have, and they succeeded. So
yeah, I'm as we touched on a little bit earlier. I'm very interested to see how the Bryce Dallas Howard episode plays out, as well as especially the Daniels after Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm like super interested. Like, they are directors I want to see what they do next and what kind of vibes they bring, especially to a Star Wars thing. So looking forward to seeing, especially because I've already seen like some of their behind the scenes like interview stuff being like, yeah, we came on and like the kids already had nicknames for each other and they immediately gave us nicknames, and we went and grabbed lunch with the kids to kind of get a vibe for what their chemistry is before we came on it. But like they came in for episode 4, I'm sure they shot some of the stuff out of order, but like the kids had already kind of built up a camaraderie among themselves.
Oh yeah, the kids have a great chemistry, period.
Seeing that in some of the like press that they did for the release has been fun as well. So looking forward to seeing where we go from here for the next month and a half. All right, let's dive into the report card. We grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give these first couple episodes of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Cam?
Right now it's at an A for me. Like that's where it's currently at. Its current grade is an A. Could go up, could go down, but it has a very strong start.
Yeah, I'll meet you there. I think, a lot of fun to start. I'm very intrigued to see where we go next, especially as it's not that like I didn't have high hopes for it or anything like that. It's just kind of we're at a place where there's been so much Star Wars that I'm just kind of and especially coming from a place where like twice as many projects get announced as ever see the light of day, that it's like, okay, when we finally do get one, it's like, okay, let's see how this plays out. Let's see what this one's going to be like. Some of these shows have been incredible. Andor, one of the all-timers. Acolyte had some cool things in it, but ultimately I haven't really thought about it much since. So it's very much like, oh, and then immediately seeing like Star Wars suburbs, and here's a bus with a Rex droid driving the kids to school with gum on the back of its head.
So good.
Like, okay, they are fully going to like, let's make this as like recognizable as possible to kids today, to be like, look, that's my life, but with a little bit of sci-fi flair in Star Wars stuff, and give them those dreams of and hopes of adventure and kind of stuff. So it nailing the vibes, I think, of what a Star Wars adventure can be, especially a different kind of Star Wars adventure. Obviously we've gotten like, because it is like, there's a whole other thing, like, oh, people are like shitting, oh, this kid's playing with action figures. Like, one of the first things we see Luke Skywalker doing, flying a little ship around. Like, kids play with toys in Star Wars.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you guys. Star Wars does not have to be
there from the beginning, man.
Shout out to Power Converter, by the way.
Yeah,
we need a new Power Converter, and it's like can't go to Toshi's for a new Power Converter.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a shop around there that is Tashi Station. Who knows? So much fun in here. Looking forward to seeing where we go over the next 6 weeks. Extra credit. Other suggestions if you like this. We've got Andor, The Mandalorian, and then this is where like I think this is maybe the first time like one of these Star Wars shows has done this. We go away from Star Wars. It's not all Star Wars stuff, because we also have recommendations for Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Oh, I get that.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, sure.
And then we go back to Star Wars stuff with Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and The Bad Batch. But this is a kid's adventure, so let's recommend another kid's adventure show, Percy Jackson. This is the guy that did the Spider-Man movies. Let's do the Spider-Man Homecoming movies that we have on here, because No Way Home is still not on Disney+. Extracurriculars. You watch anything else on Disney Plus this last week or so?
No. This has been the one thing I've watched on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I also hopped in just as I was like building some Lego stuff, threw Moana on in case I was going to go see Moana 2. I have not gone to watch Moana 2, but I did like rewatch that in the background and was like, yeah, no, I get why this has been one of the top rated shows or top rated things on streaming for the last few years, because very catchy songs, lots of fun for kids, so it's an easy thing to just throw on in the background and let the kids enjoy. So Moana 2 makes sense. All right, well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. We will revisit this middle of January after the last episodes have aired, and I'm sure we'll if we're keeping up with it over the course of the next few episodes, we will, I'm sure, give kind of our, oh yeah, here are the other things I'm watching on Disney Plus in that portion. Next week's episode will be Dream Productions. Don't know how many, because I don't know what the release of that is going to be. If it's like, it's 6 10-minute shorts or something like that, but we'll do something Dream Productions related next week, so stay tuned for that. You follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, very excited for what we have coming up in the month of December for that T Plus show. Of course, we'll be recapping 6 weeks from now how we felt about the entirety of it, but stay tuned because we still have plenty coming up for this December.
Yep. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, .bsky.social. The things I will shout out, That Nerdy Site Show. This last week we did the Wicked review, as well as Moana 2, as well as, what was the other thing we talked about there? It was another movie, I think, right? Was it?
Was it a movie? What did we... Oh, I talked about Arcane.
There you go. There we go, Arcane. Yeah. I know, it was I know we talked about 3 things, because I had a three segmented thumbnail for that one. Yes, Arcane. This week we're going to be talking, we're going to be giving our predictions for the Game Awards. We're going to do our kind of annual Portillo's bet on that to see who predicts how the games industry is wrapping things up here the end of the year. So stay tuned for that. And then, as I said, next week's That D Plus show will be some variation of the Dream Productions series from Pixar and the Inside Out universe, dropping next week on Disney Plus. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed. And may the Force be with you.
And also with you.